Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Canopy Cafe. I'm your host, Ben Sollee. I'm the Director of Engagement at Canopy Kentucky. We're a nonprofit organization helping businesses make a positive impact on people, planet, our future. And we do that through a number of different ways. We educate them on good business practices and sharing ideas and how to do those through our podcast, Mind Your Wake, and our online educational opportunities. We also will be certifying companies later this year through our Canopy Certified program that takes a balanced approach to, transparency, leadership, culture, governance, all the things that we know go into the makeup of a good business, and particularly businesses that operationalize their good. So you can find out more about that at canopyky.org. We started these Canopy Cafes in an effort to continue all the wonderful conversations that we used to have when people used to stop by our office back in pre-Rona days. And we're continuing that in these Canopy Cafes, inviting leaders in the good business community who are already navigating their way intuitively by their gut through different strategies and sharing those through these conversations. Today on the show, we have Alli Truttman, founder of Wicked Sheets, whose company has been responding to the global pandemic in some pretty innovative ways that we'll talk about. But first, we're going to check in with product specialist Alex Page for highlights from the good business community. Hi, Alex.
Hi, how's it going?
It's good as ever.
Good as ever. Happy to be here.
That's right. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be doing the good work with you here at Canopy. And it's funny, as this pandemic rolls on, we see more and more the importance of these good business practices. And, it sounds like you found some highlights to share with folks today.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, even on that, I feel like I've just seen more articles pop up and hearing more good business news. So that's really awesome just to know that that's out there, but also good for me because I have more to report on. So, yeah. What'd you say?
I said it's good for all of us.
It's good for all of us. Yeah. So the first thing I want to talk about, and a lot of people may have already heard about this, but so Trader Joe's, which is a popular grocery store, we have one here in Louisville, recently was accused of some of their packaging being racist, to the point where there was even an online petition started for them to remove the packaging being accused of this. They're being urged to follow the example of other national food companies and rebrand their products. So this call for Trader Joe's to rebrand its international foods comes as the national unrest fueled by the killing of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and others. And it has prompted other food companies to announce that they were reassessing or doing away with brands that use racist imagery. So an online petition is asking the company to remove racist branding and packaging from its stores, including international food items carrying the names like Trader Ming's, Trader Jose, Trader Joe's. Those products and others reflect a narrative of exoticism and perpetuates harmful stereotypes, according to the petition, which on Sunday had been signed by more than 1,500 people. So someone from Trader Joe's, Kenya Freed Daniel, the company's national director of public relations, stated that while this approach to product naming may have been rooted in a lighthearted attempt at inclusiveness, they recognize that now it had the opposite effect. With that in mind, they made the decision supposedly several years ago that they're only going to use the Trader Joe's name on their products moving forward. But supposedly it's been kind of a slow process. They've gotten a lot of the products out of there, but there's still a number that are still using this name. So hopefully it'll be finalized soon. I think this is just another case where a national brand is being called out for being racist. Maybe they intended to do it. Maybe they didn't. Who knows, And I only think we're only going to see more of this, and it's one of the big topics that we've been talking about at Canopy, and just goes to show that the future of good business truly is being anti-racist, and companies are just going to have to start being a lot more careful about their packaging, and the statements that they make, who they donate to, all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a new word for me, exoticism. So yeah, it's kind of this it's pervading our consciousness as business owners. And of course, it's been in the conversation in the community for a long time. And really what we're seeing is that really sped up pivot, right, around good business and transparency and listening to your consumers, which a lot of folks have been talking about for a long time. Like this new generation, they part of what they buy is connected to their identity, and they don't want to connect their identity to racist companies. So really, really interesting news.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just people are starting to recognize these small microaggressions that are coming out from companies. And like I said, maybe the company doesn't even know that it could be interpreted in an odd way. But now you're really, as a company, you're going to have to think about every aspect of whatever you go into, just every part of your business, if it can be interpreted in a way that's harmful or oppressive. So
yeah, which is made easier, that thinking, when you have a diverse workforce.
Definitely.
When you have representation in your workforce, they'll help do that work with you and for you.
Yes, that's a really good point. So the second piece of news that I have is it's also about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but to shift it a little bit, recently Intel, an industry leader in the technology space, got a perfect score on the Disability Equality Index. So this is the third year in a row that this has happened for Intel. So they've supposedly been doing a really great job at being an inclusive business for those with disabilities. For some background, the Disability Equality Index provides a comprehensive benchmarking tool for corporations to self-report on their disability policies and practices. The Disability Equality Index reflects a company's inclusive disability practices and policies in 4 different areas. So that's culture and leadership, enterprise-wide access, employment practices, and community engagement and support services. So this evolving index objectively scores each corporation on a scale from 0 to 100, 100 representing the most inclusive. So Intel got a 100, meaning that they scored perfectly in all 6 areas that they measure, which is really cool to have like such a huge industry leadership for that to happen. So creating an inclusive and supportive workspace for those with disabilities is not really talked about as much, or maybe recently it hasn't been talked about. But obviously it's a very important tenet of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workspace. Recently, the spotlight has been uplifting Black individuals and creating a supportive space for people of all races. But as with any identity, disabilities are just another intersection in one's identity that can make life really tough. And it's often not thought about. So it's just great to hear that a company is really championing this space.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Well, that's all I've got for this morning.
Thank you so much, Alex, for the update from the Good Business community. We look forward to these, and we'll see you Thursday.
Sounds good. See you.
All right. Take care. That button. Sometimes I forget how to run this thing, but I'm not going to forget how to bring our next guest on. Alli Truttman is the founder of Wicked Sheets. It's an incredible company that was founded with a social mission of helping people out that were dealing with night sweats, but of course has evolved a lot since then and adapted in a profound way during this global pandemic, which we'll learn more about from Alli Truttman herself. Hi, Alli. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Ben and Canopy fam. I am so excited to join you guys.
Absolutely. Well, it does feel like a family because you're part of, an entrepreneurial ecosystem here in Louisville that is kind of, really kind of pushing for, social impact and really being part of the community and helping out. So how are things going?
Oh, just like everybody, they say every day is a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite thing to equate being an entrepreneur or even having a startup business to is running up a down escalator. You see the top of the stairs and you're running so hard and you're going to get there. And then slowly energy or something takes over. And then you're like, well, I'll see you later.
Right.
So I feel like the pandemic and our recent pivot to masks has kind of been like that. I felt like a newbie entrepreneur again during this whole thing. So I guess I'm reinvigorated if that's the silver lining.
Yeah, that is interesting that it kind of gets back down to the foundation of entrepreneurship, which is problem solving, right? You've got all these new boundaries and things to respond to and new problems to solve. So like what problems as an entrepreneur in a business are you, trying to solve right now?
Right. Well, so a lot of people in the Louisville community or the Kentucky community know that Wicked Sheets started as a bed sheet company. I've had issues myself with night sweats my entire life. And just recently, starting in March, people were like, hey, you make fabric. I think there's going to be a really big opportunity for masks. And there's a global, not a national, a global shortage of this personal protective PPE equipment. And I like to say that I'm a hoarder in a good way of fabric and supplies here.
Yeah. A healthy
So
hoarder.
yeah, exactly. Maybe not at my house, but here at Wicked Sheets, I obviously have had investors in the past, and I see everything that we've purchased or that's in our warehouse back here with a dollar sign on it. And so we save and have saved always all of our scrap material, all of our waste from any manufacturing partners, things like that. We might get a boatload of sheets, but then shortly thereafter, we get the boatload of waste that comes with it because we truly believe in a no waste model. And so we got together as a team and started thinking like, gosh, what are we going to do with all of this scrap material? And some of you guys might know we're partners with the Bluegrass Center for Autism here locally, because my past life, I was a therapist for kids with autism. And one of the projects we had them do earlier throughout the year was separate that scrap by size. It was a really fantastic task for them to do, some fine and gross motor skills where they were taking it, measuring it, and then sorting it into boxes that were appropriately sized. Well, light bulb moment, our staff's like, well, we already know how much scrap we have. It's already sized appropriately. So let's figure out how to cut it and be able to use that waste and make it into masks. And so
That's incredible.
Oh, it was wild. And it started, like the end of March. We had no intention of selling the masks whatsoever. I have a lot of friends in the medical field and a lot of friends that are pharmacists, and they were reaching out saying like, hey, I heard you have masks. Any chance you can donate a couple or whatever? And I was happy to do that. And then the social media world took over and a link got shared and then another link got shared. Next thing you knew, we sold like 15,000 masks in like 24 hours on a private link. It wasn't even listed on our website. So
that's amazing.
Oh yeah. So it reinvigorated the fire. And then of course, you're looking back going, great, we knew how to sew sheets. How on earth are we going to figure out the supply chain management to make 15,000 masks in 24 hours? Because our Amazon culture is trained that you place an order, you push that button and you get a shipping confirmation in 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah.
So,
we're conditioned.
Oh, yes. So keeping up with our customers, keeping up with demand, and then figuring out what that supply chain was, that has been our largest challenge to date. So from March until about a couple of weeks ago, I was pretty frantic in my little entrepreneur booties going, what am I going to do?
But that's so interesting that by thinking about, I mean, really your community and all your stakeholders, you're thinking about environmental impact. So you saved resources. You didn't know what you were going to need them for, but you knew that it was better to save them than to throw them out or get some type of reuse for them. And then also thinking about your past and tying in with your social work and advocacy for folks with autism. You had a project that you weren't sure what meaning it had other than to help them, but it turns out that it really helped you as a company, which I think is a really great example of that kind of circular thinking in business.
Thanks.
And it's just a really great thing to be able to track and say, over time, like these are the ways that this had an impact on our profitability and bottom line. So that's just, I love that story.
Oh, yeah. Well, and to add to it, we went through all of that waste in like 24 hours. So then we had to start using like real product.
Yes. Yeah, I know, right?
I don't want people to think that they're getting like our scrap on their face or whatever. It's all good stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's all good stuff. Even if it were the scrap, it's just that it's not like just unused material. So it's really great that it found use, and now that led to a whole new product line for you. So these masks, are masks that you all designed and came up with that utilizes your, I guess, proprietary fabric or your special fabric that's cooling and moisture wicking. So it's an interesting solution for a lot of the gripes that people have with masks right now around comfort and like they're hot and unbreathable and all those things. Sort of the same complaints that people had around sheets, right?
Right. That's precisely it. And when we started developing the sheet line, my mom's a nurse, and I know a lot of folks that have had issues where they're either going through a cancer treatment they're uncomfortable because of medical condition. So I always had this like medical urgency in my mind while I was developing the sheets. And so I kept researching and trying to figure out like what's that seal of approval in the bedding line that people need to feel comfortable with. And we found this partnership with the Asthma Allergy Friendly Foundation, and they were certifying groups like Dyson for their HEPA filters, Mercedes-Benz for the filters they were putting in their cars,
Yeah.
Allery's pillow protectors. And I kept looking at it going, these guys know what they're talking about. They're looking for certain dyes or chemicals that most mattress and bedding companies are using. Formaldehyde. People don't realize how many nasty chemicals are in the sheets that they're putting on their bed, and they're laying half naked in them all night long. And they don't realize that the dyes and chemicals that are in their bedding actually can get into their skin, and it causes irritation for those people that have rash or eczema. It's a really important thing to note that, the chemicals that are in your bedding are not going to exacerbate those issues. And so when I was going after this certification, everything we did with our fabric engineers was to keep that in mind. We got it tested about, I'd say, 9 years ago. And ever since then, we've been able to withhold the standards to make sure that our bedding is all free of dyes, chemicals, formaldehyde, anything that might cause skin irritation, things that they called phthalates that are endocrine disruptors, those things that might irritate someone that was a breast cancer survivor. So we really started looking at this from a medical perspective, a medical lifestyle perspective, if you will, when we developed our fabric. So as we started looking at it, we're thinking, okay, if people are going to be putting this on their face, which the skin on your face is so susceptible to irritation, we're always looking at new creams that have no dyes and chemicals and things that might irritate you. We thought, well, our fabric is already certified for it to be all over your body. And we always tell people to sleep naked because, if you're sweating in the sheets, you want to make sure the moisture is going straight onto the skin. Like, this is a perfect point of contact. And so we worked a lot with our first customers, a fertility clinic here locally, where the nurses and doctors were wearing them. They had to be, up close and personal with their patients. They were wearing them all day. They were complaining about how their ears were hurting with their straps. Some of them even had hearing aids. And so we were like, we've got to start thinking outside of the box. Our fabric is great, but let's also think about the design. So we actually did a design where it goes around your head and your neck as opposed to your ears, which ended up benefiting a lot of the nurses and doctors and pharmacists that were wearing masks all day long because they didn't have that ear strain that they had before. And then it turns out also kids responded really well to the design because not only was it not falling off their faces because you just pull the top strap down and it goes around your neck, if they had hearing aids or things like that, they were able to stay on their heads all day long without blocking their hearing aids. So it's just been a whole new exciting road for us to look at our product development, but it all started with this certified fabric that we knew was going to be safe and breathable for people's skin. So
yeah. And
we went back to square one.
I know. And before the show went live, we were kind of talking about this, new age and how kind of competitive it is, right? And you kind of mentioned like, it's kind of like the survival of the fittest, and that word fitness, and kind of defining that in your mind. How would you define a fit company right now?
Yeah, one of the things that I learned really quickly, especially when the SBA announced all their loans and the banks were approving PPP loans and things like that, I think it was really an opportunity for businesses who were fit to show how fit they were. And what I mean there is your financials had to be in order. You had to have some tax documentation. You had to have your books pretty clean and prepared. And you had to have a plan to know what you were spending per month, right? You had to have a pretty hard grasp on your overhead, your payroll, your taxes, your rent, your lease, all that stuff. And part of me feels like the businesses that were the best prepared got in line first, and maybe they had a great bank relationship and they had their financials in order. And I feel like maybe they were rewarded faster. And the other part of me feels really sorry for those that the mom and pop businesses that weren't, as ready because they were doing business as usual, and they could have been very, very successful until the day they retired had the pandemic not occurred. So I feel like business fitness refers to having a great handle on your financials and always being prepared, like at any given moment, especially if you're dealing with investors, right? That's what raising money has taught me, that you've got to know your numbers. And then also knowing how you're going to be able to support your staff. And that's through payroll and their taxes and their benefits, and how you're going to keep them safe and healthy. Obviously, it was not in the foreseeable future for people to be like, oh, I already had thermometers and gloves and masks ready for people to come back. But
Right.
those people that could figure out their resources really quickly or were well connected, I think that shows some business fitness, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, obviously having your counting, but you also talked a little bit about just being able to listen to and respond to your community and ideas, so that like agility and
Right.
ability to listen, I think, is also a part of it. I mean, you can have the best accounting and books in the world, but if you're not willing to adapt and change with those resources, it doesn't really matter. Like,
Right.
so I think that that's an important thing too, is like listening, some what's quote unquote soft skills of being vulnerable and like being willing to listen. Like that stuff is really incredibly valuable in moments like this, and will continue to be, because this is by far not the first or even the most major disruption that we're going to see going on down the line, knowing what we know. So,
Right.
what do you think is the opportunity for companies right now? Yours, and just kind of more broadly, if companies are, listening and being willing to adapt, what's the real opportunity right now?
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic opportunity to build brand loyalty and to build a more loyal customer base. Right now, we're such digesters of any information that comes through social media or email. We are trying to get a hold of any information that makes us feel comfortable or feel normal again. And I think if the email that comes from the founder of the company or the CEO of the company that's like, hey guys, we're struggling too. We're trying really hard to get back to our shipping standards or to respond to those customer inquiries. And if they're just real with their customers, I think that gives a really unique opportunity to get back to basics and show the transparency that a lot of these companies lost, I think, by going so fast and trying to be everything for everybody. I think a lot of people tried to do that because they were trying to keep up with how fast we could ship, how many products could we make, how can we be everything for everybody. But now we got to go back to the basics and say, what do you need? You need more customer support? Well, it's my job as the founder and CEO to go find 5 more people to help me answer the questions, so that you don't feel like we're just another company out there that you're talking to a robot. So I think it's a really, really awesome opportunity for that loyalty, customer support, customer communication. But from a business side of things, those companies that have pivoted to masks, it's a fantastic revenue builder for us to build, some of that safety net that we would have not otherwise had, for me to purchase more inventory for sheets in the future, right? I was able to continue to employ my employees, which is I feel very, very fortunate. And we were able to actually we hired 28 home sewers who had been unfortunately laid off or furloughed in the early days, that were just needing some extra income when unemployment either didn't come through or they were uncertain if they could apply for PPP loans. Sorry, I say PPP and PPE all day long, and sometimes I interchange them.
There's a Venn
Right.
diagram, really, of what those two things are.
Yeah, exactly. Either way, they all make you sweat. So they fit into my business model perfectly.
Perfect.
Yeah. But
Yeah, that's amazing. And you even like were able to employ some artisans, right? So not just people that were sewers, but people that had been working in the arts world and the other service industries. That's really special.
Yeah. Oh, it was such an amazing way to connect with that community. One of my lead sewers, her name's Sarah Jane Estes. She's fantastic. She was formerly in Lexington, so she connected us with a Lexington. I call it the Sewers Guild. It's not really a Sewers Guild, but that's the best way to describe it. She connected us with a lot of those folks. They were so eager to help, and that opened up doors to. We had sewers in Indiana, in South Carolina. We had some in Atlanta. And then locally, a lot of the folks that were at the Louisville Ballet, we were able to hire some of those guys because they were instantly, when the ballet shut down, they were instantly furloughed. And so we were super, super fortunate to connect with this group. And we've been really fortunate to keep 3 of them on full time. So I just feel like knowing that community now builds a better sewing community, and it shows the sewers and the makers a little bit of the business side, and it shows us how valuable that personal skill set is for folks like myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a trade skill historically, but it's sometimes those trade skills, those are the ones that are really foundational. Like it's good to have those, obviously, for taking care of your own home and crafting and being creative, but also like they're just incredibly valuable to have. So if folks are interested in either getting involved or buying their own Wicked masks, that you can do so at wickedsheets.com. Obviously, you'll be supporting a whole network of creators and makers, so that's a really great thing. What's up ahead? I mean, as you continue to respond to the pandemic, what's up ahead for Wicked Sheets?
Yeah, well, we don't think masks are going away anytime soon, so we continue to build our inventory in that. We're working with a lot of partners that are going to be in the education space or in the healthcare space. So as we were mentioning earlier, with the announcements of school systems and how that's going to work, our kids going back in and out of classroom, we're going to be kind of on our toes, but ready to support those people that need the masks. And then we're back to full sheet production as well. We put things on pause. It really broke my heart it was great to run through your inventory, but it broke my heart that we had this amazing production line of sheets. And I was like, vacation mode for sheets, full scale mask production. Here we go. So we're back in full sheet production, and we just recently released our new website for our Little Sleepers page. I know you have a little one, so we're now making bed sheets for the little dribbles and drools in your life, because moisture is moisture and it all happens in the bed, and somebody's got to take care of it, so might as well be me.
Right. Well, that's pretty cool. So if you want to find out more, again, you can check out, there it is, wickedsheets.com. Thanks so much for swinging by the Canopy Cafe, Alli. I'm just so excited to hear that you all have been able to, muscle your way through, to fight your way through, to be creative and supple and all those other things. And I'm excited to check in a little bit later this year.
Great. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate this community and everything that Louisville has done for us. So thanks, Ben. I appreciate you.
All right. Take care. All right. That was Alli Truttman with Wicked Sheets. And, I just think that conversation rings all these bells with me in connection with the Canopy certification program. What that program really is a guide to help companies towards greater impact. And that happens through, 4 tracks of metrics around leadership, culture, governance, and external impact. And Alli talked about all 4 of those tracks. As a leader, she had to make some tough decisions. She had to consider the culture of her employees and her workforce. From a governance standpoint, she really decided, we're going to, track our materials, and we're going to save these materials. And external impact, so many different ways, talking from the folks that were, autism community onwards. So those are all things that, get tracked when you're talking about good business and how it can affect your bottom line. So definitely want to encourage you to head over to canopyky.org. We just wrapped up the 27 campaign, which was a 27-day campaign inviting Kentucky companies to make a commitment towards greater racial justice in their communities and their companies. And we had 26 companies participate in the campaign, raising $48,000 to support Black businesses. It was a really incredible effort, and we're really excited to share the next phase of that with you at some point here in the near future. Also, we've got new t-shirts. That's right, the Canopy t-shirts, Good Business is Anti-Racist, by 2 different artists, Hound Dog Press and Nico Meredith. Really, really excited about these t-shirts, and they have been selling. So you can get yours at canopyky.org. Up on Thursday, we'll be back in your feed with Larry Horn from Amplify Louisville, talking about supporting Louisville's entrepreneurial community, especially in these challenging times. We hope you'll join us for that, and take care of each other. Stay healthy, stay safe, wear a mask, all those things. Thanks so much. Take care, you all. Bye.